After seeing David Beckham ruin his legacy by taking the blood money of Qatar 2022, we would like to take this opportunity to confirm that we are in no way interested in such a deal and expect to be rewarded accordingly. Welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. You can find us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod, on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod, and you can also follow our sponsor at Sports Club Map, both on Twitter and on Instagram. My name is Tommaso Dami, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr.
Rory, hello. Sorry, you caught me by surprise there. I think we should quickly tell any new listeners what Sports Club Maps do. What do they do, Tommy?
Well, Sports Club Maps is a great company based in Scotland, and they basically print maps from all over the world featuring the logos and the cities that have a big sports club. Are we talking only about football? No, we aren't. We're talking about any sport you could possibly imagine. They've got mugs, they've got mouse pads, they've got posters, they've got plenty of shit. What do you want to add, Rory? They're sick. And
quite excitingly, to go along with our AFCON specials in the future, there could, or there should be some AFCON-themed maps being released too alongside the pod. So keep your eye out for them and follow them at Sports Club Maps.
And Rory, why is it very important to follow them? Because on Monday nights, what do we do? We're
going to start doing giveaways again. We did it once and then forgot, which I know is very much not like us, but we are going to start doing the giveaways again. And it is vital that you follow them, us, and listen to the pod.
Great. Rory, how have you been? How's this week been? I know you're a little sick.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a slow week. I've been off ill most of the week, which is obviously shite, but happens to coincide with the beta release of Football Manager 2022. And that's not why I've been off work ill, but it's a happy coincidence. Let's just say that.
Rory and Football Manager are so synced that it gets sick in the exact time.
my body just shuts down. Once it saw that it was released, it was like, oh, okay, relax guys. We need some sofa time.
It's beautiful weather in Milan these days. There are some very gorgeous fall days, very pretty to walk at the park and see all the foliage on the trees. And then, of course, this weekend it's my birthday, and there is a 90% chance of rain on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday that we are supposed to get the day off. So it's going to be a long, rainy weekend.
And you were hoping the only rain would be you making it rain in the strip clubs, right? But unfortunately not.
Exactly. But it was also midweek action in Serie A. We've had the League Cup in England, and this is what we're mainly going to discuss before previewing this weekend's fixtures. And then in our weekly topic, we're joined by AFC Finners to discuss the life of one of England's greatest footballers. Who am I talking about? Well, just keep on listening and you'll find out yourself. Rory, are you ready to jump to the Euro review?
Let's do it.
Welcome aboard the Euro Review Blimp. I'm here with my co-pilot Rory, and we're ready to take you through this midweek footballing action across England and Italy. Rory, where do you want to start from? The Bel Paese or England?
You mean God's country. Let's start in Il Bel Paese. Let's do it.
Let's start in Il Bel Paese. Well, the first thing that I want to talk about, I want to apologize to our friend Max Heger, who was listening to our latest episode, and while driving by a school, I said a bunch of bad words concerning Inter's game and especially Juventus. Sorry about that, Max, but today I'm in a different mood.
Also, stop driving past primary schools, you nonce. What's going on?
Yeah, Max, you please hit us up about that one. We have a bunch of question marks around our heads as we speak. But no, I'm very happy because Inter have managed to keep a clean sheet only for the second time this season. It was against Empoli. It was an away game. We won 2-0 in pretty convincing fashion. I kind of love, I don't know about you, Rory, but playing with the 3-5-2, I kind of like when sort of like the two wings both score. So it was Di Marco, the second goal, and D'Ambrosio, the first goal. which, well, D'Ambrosio is kind of a crazy stat. This was his first game as a starter this season, and it's the 7th consecutive season that he's been in the score sheet for Inter Milan.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's a player that's often ignored, is D'Ambrosio, but I feel like whenever he plays, he comes up with fairly big moments, no?
No, he does. And there was a very nice siparietto, we call it in Italian. Siparietto is just like a gag between two people. At the end of the game, you could hear Empoli's manager calling D'Ambrosio out and saying, Danilo, sempre tu, which means Danilo, always you. It was referring to a game that was played at the San Siro on the last match day 3 years ago. Inter needed a win to play Champions League football the following season, and Empoli needed points to stay up. Guess who scored? Danilo D'Ambrosio. Of course, one of the 2 goals was by him, and he basically put a death sentence on Empoli. So D'Ambrosio, when he heard that last night, he clapped back and he said, as long as I'm playing, you cannot stay in Serie A. And the Empoli manager proceeded to tell him to go fuck himself. But it was all banter, and of course they were just chatting after the game. But the goal was beautiful. Did you see it? Nice give and go with Alexis Sanchez.
It was, and it was a outside of the foot assist from Sanchez, I want to say. A little flick with the outside of the foot. Really beautiful. Really annoyed that I left him on the bench this weekend, or this week even, but a beautiful assist. And I enjoy seeing Sanchez tear it up, even if it is against Empoli, I suppose.
And then a beautiful assist from Lautaro Martinez to Federico Di Marco, his second goal of the season, to make it 2-0. And now they come back to Milan, and they can focus on the next game. So the next game is going to be against Udinese. So before these 4 games against the Sheriff, Juventus, Empoli, and Udinese, I said that we needed at least 10 points. It looks like we might as well be on the way to getting them, having drawn only against Juventus and having won both against the Sheriff and Empoli. After the game against Udinese, Inter are going to play Sheriff, and then there is going to be, before the international break, on November 7th, the big one, AC Milan Inter. And this game is going to be fundamental because as we speak, Napoli haven't played against Bologna yet, and AC Milan are currently sitting top of the league. Inter Milan are trailing by 7 points, and so it goes without saying that winning the derby is going to be crucial if we want to stay in the title race. We could decrease the deficit by 4 points. If AC Milan win, it would be 10, and that's kind of a point of no return, in my opinion. What do you think, Rory?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it closer to the time, but do you want to maybe retract your prediction about Milan falling out of the title race and them not being about it?
Look, I'm going to talk about them right now. AC Milan win 1-0 against Torino, but again, it's one of those wins that are not convincing. It's one of those wins that the teams who try to win the title need desperately. You are going to win beautiful games 6-0, and then there are the tough ones that you need to win 1-0. But I'm not fully convinced. They seem to always win by a margin of 1 goal, except against Bologna. But again, in that game, they were playing against 9 men.
Yeah, so that's a kind of a big asterisk against that game, I think.
So I don't know, and the players are starting to be very mouthy. So I don't really know. I still think that they're going to be found out. However, we have to talk about the most beautiful man in football, Olivier Giroud.
Of course,
it was like him. Nobody wanted him over the summer, but then he's just fit in with the oldies, with the elderly clan.
The old retirement home side of the San Siro.
Exactly.
But right, if he, and we're getting well into the future now, but if he wins Serie A with Milan,
he won't. If
his career could actually low-key be really fucking impressive.
He's
won a lot. He's won everything.
It is already impressive, and it's all seasoned by some beautiful goals that people will never forget. Like that Scorpio kick goal
against Palace.
Yeah, that was insane. That was insane. So well done, Olivier Giroud. AC Milan fans are surely happy. And I wanted to talk quickly about Torino. Torino, I feel really bad for them because they're playing good football, but they're not getting the results that they want. This last game was against AC Milan. They lost 1-0. The only win in their last 5 games was against Genoa, 3-2, and then they lost it to Napoli, again, 1-0, to Juventus, 1-0, again, at the death of time, and they drew to Venezia. And the funny thing is that they've conceded only 11 goals so far, which makes them the third best defense in Serie A. And they've conceded less goals than teams like Inter, Atalanta, Lazio, Juventus, Fiorentina. So something is definitely happening. They've managed to concede very little, but where are the goals is the big question. Belotti seems to be fully reintegrated in the squad right now, but he's yet to score a goal this season. So things desperately need to turn around. Their next game is against the Sampdoria. We're going to talk about them too. Sampdoria not doing too well. And after Sampdoria, they take on Spezia. So I think that before the international break, they desperately need 2 wins because they're not where they should be. Rory, did you get a chance to watch the game? What do you think about it?
I think with Torino, they're just lucky that there's some very poor teams in Serie A this year. I think they're lucky that there are definitely 3 teams that are worse than them. As you said, you can see that there's progress. They've been relying on Belotti for far too long. So maybe it's about time that some other players stepped up and chipped in with some of the goals, because if they continue to lean on him, maybe they will find themselves in trouble. But I think we can see that the manager there is kind of turning or starting to turn around a ship that has been drifting aimlessly for years. So I think we can see signs of progress. Like I said, I think there's teams worse than them this year, which I think we're going to move on to. Because I think they'll be okay. They just need a bit of patience. But the manager seems to be doing a good job there in general.
Yeah, and a bit of goals, a bit of patience, and a bit of goals. And I think they could even challenge. So they are only 6 points behind Lazio. I think that this Torino team, if they pick up form, they could challenge maybe for a Conference League. But we know that up there it's going to be very tight, because there is another contender for the Conference League. They play with a black and white shirt, and they are also known as the Thieves from Turin. Rory, what am I talking about?
Rubentus.
I'm talking about them. They fall short of Sassuolo, who come back for the first time in their history. They come back from Juventus with 3 points in the back. Beautiful chip by one of the shortest men in Serie A, Maxime Lopez.
And that's a close run field when you've got Insigne in it. You know, there's a lot of short people around in Serie A.
He's 3 centimeters taller than Insigne, but I guess that the two of them, Rory, if you saw them in your class, you would not be surprised sitting down with the rest of the kids.
My kid's got a great beard. My God.
That's sick, Maxime. Where are you from? But no, they win with another goal by Frattesi, who scored his 2nd consecutive goal in Serie A. And it just feels that Sassuolo is one of those clubs that can really, really bring consistent players to the international panorama. Let's not forget that that's also where Demiral, currently at Atalanta, former Juventus player, comes from.
And Locatelli, and you know, like they feel like this team they do produce players. And it was an interesting game because Sassuolo definitely had a game plan of just catch them on the break, but it worked every single time. Juventus was so wasteful with the ball. Like, that first goal was such an incisive break, really like incredibly quick, great finish across the goalkeeper. And then they just waited for Juventus to do nothing, and Juventus did nothing. I feel like with Allegri, now I'm torn this year, Tommy, because as we made clear, we're playing each other in Falta Calcio this week, and it's not gone well, and I am blaming one person, and that is Massimiliano Allegri. I have had to sit and hope that Juventus do well, which I had to shower afterwards. I don't feel good about it. And his teams cannot attack. He cannot get he can't get product out of strikers. He's got, now Morata, we can say I don't know if I've seen him onside yet. Like, within the first 5 minutes of that game, I think he was called offside twice. So, you know, he's working with not the best tools. But to be able to get nothing out of Chiesa and next to nothing out of Dybala, when Pirlo got a lot more out of them, like, has football moved on from Allegri since he left?
He said it. I mentioned it when in that bit of rant that I had in the latest episode. Allegri said it, quote unquote, we are going to try and nibble points for the rest of the season. It sounds like it's their game plan. It sounds like they're never going to go out there, at least until the wheels start properly turning. They're just going to try and score that one goal and nibble their win away. Allegri has said it loud and clear. And right now they're sitting 13 points behind AC Milan.
Christ.
Is the title challenge over? Because then we've seen that Juventus just need 2 consecutive results, somebody to sleep up top maybe, and then they're back in the game. But I think that right now 13 points is becoming a very difficult lead to overcome, considering how well Napoli and AC Milan are doing.
Yeah, that's almost use it. Like for Milan will lose the odd game, but there's no way they're going to lose enough games for Juventus to catch them up. Really, you'd have to lose 3-6-9 to 4 games, and Juventus to win at that exact time. I think, yeah, the title challenge is maybe over already. Although that's definitely been said about Juventus before, and we're definitely jinxing it. But, maybe they can get the Conference League. Maybe they'll get the Conference League.
That would be hilarious. But yeah, I was listening to a Juventus YouTuber, if you understand Italian, with a strong southern Sicilian accent.
Of course he's southern. Why is he supporting Juventus, for God's sake?
Because they don't have good teams down there. So there are a lot of... They always say it, Juve in trasferta, Calabria deserta, which means when Juventus play away, Calabria becomes a desert.
Although I do realize I've just said that as a Northern Arsenal fan, so I take that back. I apologize.
True. You would have a few teams to pick from in the north, especially in the northwest of England. But the next game, I would be a little worried if I was a Juve fan, because their next game is against Verona. And Verona haven't failed to score in a game since September 13th. Together with Torino under Igor Tudor, this is another team that has been very impressive. They've just drawn 1-1 against Udinese, thanks to a penalty by Rory's Fantacalcio's Barak.
That guy's killing it this year, He's doing well.
That was actually kind of funny. The penalty was given away by my defender, Rodrigo Becao, and your player got to take the penalty, but I don't think it's going to be enough for you
I don't think it'll help.
We shall see. But so they drew 1-1 to Udinese. The previous game, they won 4-1 against Lazio. Before that, they managed to put 2 goals past AC Milan. They were actually leading 2-0, and then they gave their lead away. And before that, 4-0 against Spezia, 3-3 against Genova, 2-2 against Salernitana, and they won also 3-2 against Roma. They look like giant slayers at times. If they will be on form next week, at the weekend, I think that Juventus should be worried.
And I want to quickly say, with Verona, I am going to, when FM22 is officially released and we get the alpha, I'm going to try and stream, and I think I'm picking Verona as my save to try and get them to win Serie A. There'll be a storyline that we want to talk about when they won Serie A in the 90s. My aim is to repeat that feat with Verona. So if you're into Football Manager and you love my voice and face, then tune in. There will be more details, I think.
Nice, very nice. And I know that I'm looking far into the future, but, let's start from the near future. Juventus's next 3 games across 7 days are going to be away at Verona, at home against Zenit, and at home against Fiorentina. But the real problem comes after the international break, as they will have, in 7 days, they're going to play Lazio away, Chelsea away, and Atalanta at home, to then follow up to Salernitana away. I think that that's going to be key in Juventus' season. However, we know that the game at Stamford Bridge is not going to be that intense, as both teams are pretty much already through the group stage. But definitely nice to see that last-minute winner by Maxime Lopez. Well done, Sassuolo.
Atalanta. And he dropped the C as well, which the Juve fans are going to... if they're not already sick of seeing it, they're going to be really sick of seeing it by the end of the season.
Mate, you know what I noticed about that clip? The silence that there is in the stadium, and him doing it. You know when you say something too loud in a very quiet place, and I'm just like... you can kind of see it in his face. He's just like, oh fuck, shall I do it? Yeah, just do it to see. But
it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, man. Go for it.
Of course. I love all about that. Atalanta pick up a win with an incredible Ilicic goal. Did you see that one? Baseline.
Just as I think the last episode I said Ilicic isn't on it. He's gone, man. And then he just pings that.
Exactly. That was beautiful to see. They actually went down against the Sampdoria, Caputo, the goal scorer, and then they came back with an own goal, then a goal by Zapata, and then Ilicic sealing things up at the 95th minute. Atalanta still are not as convincing as they used to be, but they've got a man whom I have in fantasy football, despite benching him this match day because I thought he was not going to play. Davide Zappacosta, another player with quite an interesting career. And he used to play at Atalanta before. Now he's back. And, they've got their 2 right back and left back out injured until January, Ateboer and Gosens. Zappacosta, who's not a youngin anymore, he's got a lot of experience, though. He's been bagging assists and really not making Atalanta fans miss the German and the Dutch. Another good win, very clutch win, comes from Mourinho's Roma. They go down against Cagliari thanks to a beautiful, beautiful goal by Pavoletti, a player that whenever I read his name, I'm like, man, I'm so sad for you for all the injuries you got. Because
really?
this guy,
I don't know much about him at all.
He was top goal scorer. I'm going off the top of my head, but when he was at Genoa one season, he was top goal scorer in Serie A. Then he got a very bad injury, I think his right knee. Then he did another knee, I think. Okay. He's just been very unlucky. But then you see him perform on his day, and you're just like, you could.
It was a beautiful goal. It's really well taken. Really well taken.
He could have done so much better in his career if it wasn't for the injuries. And then Ibanez with a very strong header that was a strong header, almost edge of the box, puts it in at the 71st minute, and 7 minutes later, one of my favorite midfielders in Serie A, together with Barella. He couldn't be there at the Euros because he was injured, and if I was him, I would be furious.
Mate, he would have been the player to come out of that Italy squad if he'd have played. It's
Lorenzo
ridiculous.
Pellegrini, ladies and gentlemen. So in 9 games this season in Serie A, he scored 5 goals and put 2 assists. If you look at his stats last season, he scored 7 goals in 30 games. So he's already pretty much matched his goal scoring tally from last year. And I think that it's just going to improve and improve and improve. And if you look at international competitions, in 3 games in the Europa League, he's already scored 2. Now, this player, we've said it, we've repeated it over and over again, he can do it all. He can even play as a striker if you want. He's got the vision, he takes free kicks, he's cold as ice. And I think he's one of those players, together with Mancini, I think they're the 2 players that really stand out. I think they're the 2 players who've bought in the most into the Mourinho's mentality. What do you think?
Yeah, he's definitely getting into it, right? And I was watching it last night. I was like, I think I tweeted, the more I watch Roma, the more I'm convinced that Pellegrini is the only player on the pitch. Like, he does everything for that team. He never stops. And the free kick, we have to say, is absolutely beautiful. Just pinged into the near corner, like near post corner. Just such an important goal for Roma. Such an important goal. They really needed that. I think if they'd lost that, they'd be out of, they'd be far behind in the race for Europe. And I think that's really key for Mourinho to get that goal. For Cagliari, it's a little bit worrying. It looked like they were going to get something, but now they find themselves bottom of the table, below Salernitana, which says something.
With only 1 win so far, yeah.
They seemed to struggle last year, Cagliari, from what I remember. Is this year going to be 1 year too far?
Look, there are 2 teams that there is a Serie B just waiting for 2 teams to come. And these 2 teams are Genoa and Cagliari.
Yeah, I've been waiting for years.
About Genoa, now the ownership has changed. But I think that there is, that Italians love conspiracy theories about football and everything. But it being the first Italian football club, I think that there is a sort of interest in keeping them up. And that's the reason why. And this is because they at the end they always make it. They always manage to get that 1 point of the relegation zone and not the drop. And that's the reason. And I swear to God, that's the reason why at Fantasy Football I decided to get Domenico Criscito, Mimmo Criscito. Right. To our friends from we're officially friends on the Zenit page, and he played at Zenit St. Petersburg, and he's their penalty taker, and he's a center back, and that's already a good reason to have him in Fantasy Football, a center back that takes penalties.
Yeah.
But I got him because I knew that Genoa would be awarded a lot of penalties. And they are always awarded the penalties towards the 90th minute. Dude, just go look at the goals that
I'm going to have to check it out.
Criscito has scored 4 penalties, I want to say, this season. They were all towards the 85th. Yeah, man, it's crazy.
Okay, that is a bit mad. That is a bit mad.
And they were all towards the death of time. They snatched a 1-1 draw against the Spezia this game as well, with a penalty by Domenico Criscito. And I think that they're going to stay up. But one of the two, either Genoa or Cagliari, they are Serie
If you
B
look
bound.
at Cagliari's squad, it isn't that bad. They've got some good players like João Pedro, they've got Strootman, they've got some good, okay, maybe not the fittest, but some good quality players there.
It's a good football team, but they just don't seem to be able to get the results in. By the way, Rory, have you ever thought playing for Cagliari is probably the best city that you can live in while playing in Italy? I think that a lot of players, for example, Godin, his wife is from Sardinia. They think that he went there also because it's a great place to kind of
it's a nice retirement home, eh?
Yeah, to start your retirement a bit. Other games that we had this match day, we already covered Udinese Verona 1-1, and well, tonight we've got Napoli Bologna with all of my players: Osimhen, Lozano, Mario Rui, Di Lorenzo, ready to score a few.
And don't forget Zambo Anguissa, who's going to get one, because he's definitely going to get one.
Yeah, I think he's going to get one because I've been way too loud. By the way, Rory, I hope I haven't crossed the line.
Tommy has been on WhatsApp all week, just me. Do you remember this? Only 5 hours? Mate, you scared yet? Honestly, do not ever go into a competition with an Italian. It's an absolute nightmare.
Well, your national team knows something about that, Rory.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Very, very true. Very true. But I also wanted to talk about, Tommy, I wanted to talk about the red card in Salernitana Venezia. What the fuck was that?
I was going to introduce that. You can talk about it. What happened, Rory?
So Ethan Ampadu, who was in my fantasy team, and I started him because he had the 95% certain to start. I was okay, they're against Salernitana. They're probably going to keep a clean sheet. Let's do it. And then he does an incredible last-ditch tackle on the striker, gets the ball, clears it, and for some reason, the ref gives a straight red card. Now, I do not know what he's seen there or what planet he's on, but when the ball goes the way the defender wants it to go, that's usually a clue that the defender got the ball, right?
Yeah, true.
I do not understand. What did you think? What did you make of it?
No, it was ridiculous. And before that, I was very happy that he got a red card because you had him in your fantasy squad.
Oh, mate, I was fuming. When I saw the tackle, I was fuming.
But then I read that the Venezia manager really needed to be calmed down during the post-game press conference because he said, we did not fight so hard to get to Serie A to see this type of bullshit happen. Don't forget that Venezia were winning 1-0 and eventually Salernitana came back and won 2-1. These games are crucial for these teams, and I understand the anger. But Rory, I don't know if you heard the new idea that Serie A had about refereeing controversy. Are you ready?
Don't talk about it?
No, they're going to explain their decisions to the fans. They are going to do a live stream after the game.
Mate, that's incredible.
I just think it's a lot. I think they should just have a fucking microphone on the pitch like they do in the NFL. We've already talked about it and explained the decision right away.
It's a step in the right direction. Just, I would say one thing to whoever's doing this, turn the comments off. Do not enable comments. Do not allow people to chip in during the live stream. Have it just broadcast. No input, because that's not going to be a nice thing to read. But I think that's a great idea. At least it's a step in the right direction. In the Premier League, we'll never fucking do that. No way.
Never forget, Rory, that every time something sounds like a good idea in Italy, we find a way to fuck it up. And I feel like it's going to be the same thing here. The connection is not going to work. Somebody's going to swear live. Somebody's going to cry. I don't know. Something is going to happen. But Rory, before we go to England, I'm just going to cover these weekend's fixtures because we start on Saturday at 3 p.m. Italian time with a big one. You might remember them squaring off for 2 consecutive years, I want to say, in the Coppa Italia final. We're talking about Atalanta and Lazio. They're going to play each other in Bergamo, and I think that this game will tell us a bit more about both teams. Also because Lazio, one of the teams that I haven't covered, have just won 1-0 against Fiorentina, but I still don't understand who they are. The Sarri blueprint is kind of hard to be found still. They're not scoring a lot of goals. They're conceding a lot. They win 3-1 against Inter, but then they fall 4-1 against Verona, 3-0 against Bologna. So I think that this game should tell us a bit more about two teams that have been underperforming in my opinion, so far. Then we've got Verona-Juventus. Keep your eyes on that one. I wouldn't be surprised if Verona got 1 or 3 points out of this one. And then Torino-Sampdoria, can the Granata finally get the much-needed 3 points? And then on Sunday, October the 31st, a.k.a. Halloween, a.k.a. my birthday, at 12:30, we've got Inter taking on Udinese at the San Siro, followed by Fiorentina-Spezia, Genoa-Venezia, Sassuolo-Empoli, Salernitana-Napoli, Ruairi, the Campania derby.
The first one in a very long time. The
scenes are going to be insane. It's not the first derby that we've seen in Campania, as Benevento were in Serie A last year as well. But this one, I hear that the rivalry is a region that I don't know a lot about, but I hear that the rivalry between Salerno and Napoli, it's pretty big.
Is it in Naples or Salerno?
It's in Salerno. They're going to play in Salerno. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a big one. Will AC Milan be found out by their arch enemy, Mr. Jose Mourinho, as AC Milan travel to the capital to play Rome? Man, just you wait for, if Roma win that game, Mourinho is going to do something crazy. Mourinho is going to do something absolutely crazy. By the way, what was he listening to, in your opinion, on his earphones during the game against Cagliari?
Our episode from Monday. That's the obvious answer, surely.
That's the obvious answer. I just wanted to see if you agreed with me. And then the last game of Serie A for this weekend is going to be on November 1st. Bologna-Cagliari. Let's take a plane. Actually, let's turn the wheel around from the blimp and go to foggy and rainy England that saw some League Cup action this week. Is that right, Rory?
We did. And guys, the League Cup matters again, because Manchester City, for the first time since 2016, have been knocked out of this competition. So now, all of a sudden, the sun is out and people are thinking, oh, okay, this competition that nobody cared about and now might be relevant.
And that's the same fate of Bayern Munich, right? Falling 5-0 against Borussia Mönchengladbach.
They stacked it much harder than Man City did, I think it's fair to say. So if we go back to Man City's previous loss in the League Cup, I'm going to tell you they lost 1-0 to Manchester United. Now, the players that played for each team, right? So for United, we had Zlatan, Michael Carrick, Ander Herrera, who's had a hell of a week. I don't know if you heard about him, Tommy. And Antonio Valencia played for Man United.
What did Herrera do this week? I didn't hear anything about it.
Allegedly, he is the PSG player who's been robbed by a prostitute in his car.
What?
Yeah. Apparently, a lady of the night got into the car at a red light. I imagine invited. I don't know. And then threatened him, took his phone, his wallet, and told him to take her to a specific place where she handed back over the phone, but took his wallet and everything else from the car.
It's really the case to say, what a bitch. All right, you can keep going.
Well, also, if curb crawling isn't great, I'll be honest. But anyway, the City team that night, going back, was Kelechi Iheanacho, Vincent Kompany, Jesus Navas, and Willy Caballero all play for City. So that's how long ago. The last time they lost in this competition. So how did they lose? Well, they took on West Ham at the London Stadium. It was 0-0. It's fair to say it's a game that Manchester City dominated. I think in the highlights, I didn't see many, if any, shots for West Ham. But the player who stood out, and this is something that really made me realize about West Ham and the kind of movement they've gone in, they had Areola in goal, right? And he's their second choice.
Mm-hmm. True.
Like, there are not many teams in the Premier League that have two very, very good goalkeepers. Now, Fabianski, I think, has been underrated for years. I think he's been the best goalkeeper outside of the traditional top 4, top 6 for a long time.
And he's had a super long career, Fabianski. When you talk about experience, he's definitely got it.
And honestly, it annoys me. There was no reason for Arsenal to sell him. Honestly, there was no reason for Arsenal to sell him. He's a very, very good goalkeeper. But then for them to have someone like Areola, who's got the experience that he has, like played at PSG, played in the Champions League, like for him to be their backup, I think they really do have such a good squad there. And he had a great game. He made a series of great saves. There was one from De Bruyne, one from Zinchenko late on, which was a great save, and one from Cole Palmer, who's another promising youngster coming through the City ranks. But Areola was definitely the standout performer. Man City just could not get that goal. And it goes to penalties. So, penalty shootout. West Ham score all 5 of their penalties. The standout ones were Dawson scored a beautiful penalty, pinged into the top corner, and Said Benrahma got the winner to clinch it. Foden missed his penalty, and that ultimately cost them the shootout. But it's been a week of kind of great news for West Ham, really, because they've just had news that their stadium is set to be expanded to 62,500, which means they'll have the second biggest club stadium in the country. West Ham are going places, guys. I think they genuinely are going places.
Tom, are you listening? Was he loud on the WhatsApp group, Rory?
Yeah, to be fair, he was fucking well happy with that, like, as you can imagine. He did. I have heard him talk about how he's not particularly happy about the capacity being expanded. He feels like there's too many tourist fans as there is, and maybe it'll just increase that. But I think for the profile of West Ham as a club, like, they are weirdly, and I don't know, I've not said this to Tom yet because I'm afraid he'd shout at me, so I'm going to say it on the pod. But the thing that Golden Sullivan said, the owners, was that they were going to get West Ham into Europe. Mm-hmm. Now, they are very unpopular owners, but they've done it, right? Yeah. Now, Moyes has done it, but they've contributed to it. And they are definitely getting the club moving in the right direction, despite them not being popular. I think they are doing good things. Now, there are plenty of terrible things they've done in the past. They lied to the fans about the move to the stadium, and Tom is definitely going to shout at me when he hears this, but I think that maybe they're starting to do some good things, and West Ham are going to be... They could win a cup this year. They've been the best team in the Europa League so far. In their group stage, they've won all games, scoring 7 goals and conceding 0. And in the League Cup, they've now knocked out Manchester United and Manchester City. Like, this is not a team that you can take lightly. They are... I think they could win something this year.
I was so confused. I thought you said that Tommy is going to shout at me, but you were saying Tom is going to shout at me.
Yeah, that's the accent, man.
You went on with the West Ham bit, and I was just like, I'm not going to get mad as long as you don't bring in Inter Milan or something, make a stupid comparison. But no, I got it at the end. And man, West Ham, again, a team with a long history, and I think they're overdue. Like, their fans have been waiting way too long for a little trophy in their cabinet.
And I think this is it. And I think that any team that comes up against them that is slightly disorganized, they're going to be in trouble, because West Ham will take you to pieces. They know what they're doing. Every player knows their role. And it seems like they've got 1 or 2 players in most positions. They definitely need another striker. But in most of the other positions, it seems like they've got it covered for this. Because that step, we've seen plenty of teams qualify for Europe and then just massively fall off in the next season because they've not got that squad. And with West Ham, that's not happening. Like, in the Premier League, they're still 4th, I want to say. Like, they're doing really, really well. So I think David Moyes needs to be getting a lot more plaudits than he is. And if United are looking for a new manager, they can always do a Juventus and go back to where they used to be and take Moyes back. They could do a lot worse at this rate.
And I haven't watched much West Ham, but I see a lot of talk about Declan Rice really having an incredible season for them and really improving in every aspect of the game since last year. And last year, it was already a standout name, not only in the squad, but in the Premier League. So it feels like he's really maturing.
No, definitely he is. He's adding, like, he started as a centre-back, became a defensive midfielder, and he had very little, like, he wasn't really able to provide much going forward. And then last year, we started to see him become a bit more of a box-to-box midfielder. He was making late runs into the box. And now it feels like he can contribute at both ends of the pitch. I see a lot of people getting quite salty on Twitter, usually Italians, about saying how bad Declan Rice is. I honestly think he's like a generational player, and in 5 years, we're going to look and be like, this guy is one of the best players in the world. He's unbelievable. And if West Ham can keep hold of him, because if they're in Europe and they're challenging for things, there's no reason for him to go. If they can keep him, then they can build a team around him for the next couple of years easily.
I'm just improvising this, but I want to say that there is, you know, how it kind of goes in generations. Like there was this generation, right now it's kind of turning around, but there was a period that there were no center backs, but there were a lot of strikers, for example. I feel like there is a new generation of very solid midfielders all across Europe, in England, in Italy, in France.
Spain, you got Pedri and Ricky. Like, there's a lot of them.
And I think, if you think about it, these young generations, they've grown up watching Barcelona with Guardiola. And as Guardiola has often said, if I could play with 11 midfielders, I would. So I think that it's a generation that has been influenced by a model of the game that relies a lot on the midfielders. It kind of sounds smart now that I say it out loud. I'm proud of myself.
You ruined it by giving yourself a compliment at the end, Tommy. But yeah.
But let's keep going in the League Cup. What do we have next, Mr. Ruairi?
Next, we're kind of going down into the lower leagues a little bit. And we have Sunderland. Tommy, your favourite English team, Sunderland.
Go boys.
Have reached a quarter-final of the League Cup. They drew 0-0 with QPR, but won 3-1 on penalties. Now, this is the first time since 2014, I want to say, that Sunderland have got to the quarter-final of the League Cup. That year, they got to the final. And who did they lose the final to, Tommy? Take a wild guess of which team they lost the final to.
Is it Arsenal?
Man City, because they always win it. They lost to Man City, but... friend of the pod, I think I remember you saying that you might have seen him somewhere. Fabio Borini scored in that final.
I remember this game, and Fabio Borini, I was, I don't know, it's just, this thing has happened twice to me. One time with Zanetti, Javier Zanetti, and one time with Fabio Borini, that you just see these people dressed in like athletic clothes, you know, like athleisure, what do they call it?
Leisure wear.
Yeah, leisure wear. Yeah. And you just think, man, he can pull it off. Like, he really looks like oh, shit, look at those calves. Oh, wait, let me overtake him. He was running very fast, but I was like, this guy's got to be somebody.
That's the first for Borini, I'll be honest.
Man, and this guy was fucking running fast, and I had to overtake him. And as I was overtaking him with sweat on my face, like dripping all over the place, I kind of turned around. And I had this expression of like, holy shit, it's really Borini. But yeah, that was him. That was at the park by my house.
So he scored in the final the last time Sunderland made it this far into the competition. Now, the game itself, Sunderland, how can you say it, were incredibly lucky. But I feel like for their fans, it's about time they had a bit of luck. Juventus? QPR had a goal disallowed late on, a Charlie Austin header. And it was disallowed for offside, despite the fact that the Sunderland defender was behind the goalkeeper. No idea how the linesman got that wrong, but congratulations, he did. It then went to a penalty shootout where Charlie Austin then went on to miss a penalty. So he was definitely rattled. But Sunderland won 3-1 on penalties, and they are into the quarterfinals. Whoever they get is going to be a pretty tough ask because the teams left are all pretty big teams. But their manager, Lee Johnson, when asked about which team you would like, he said, I'd like Arsenal or Spurs. Then we can have one of the real big boys, as he was laughing. So I hope, Lee, we get you and we fucking bum you.
A friend of mine described the Netflix special Sunderland Till I Die as one of the most depressing TV shows.
Oh, it's a rough watch. I just rewatched the second series. It's a rough watch. It's a
How quickly everything turns to shit, like one joy and 10 days of shit.
My favorite bit is they spend 3 million on a striker because he's got a really catchy chant. It's fucking brilliant. But yeah. So it's good that their fans have got something to be happy about. So there's one of the other games. Moving on, we have Leicester 2, Brighton 2. Leicester win 4-2 on penalties. Tommy, it's all kind of falling apart for your boys, you know.
No, it's not falling apart. There is clearly a plan behind this, and the plan is making everybody believe that you've lost it, that you don't know what your direction is anymore, and then when people least expect it, boom, you make a league title push. They don't care about the League Cup, Rory. It's all about the Premier League.
Well, it could be well timed because they've got Liverpool this weekend, so they're definitely going to need a boom. But they did lose 4-2 on penalties, unfortunately. The interesting thing here was we had two Zambian and ex-RB Salzburg players getting on the score sheet. So Daka set up a goal for Lookman, and I want to say it's right, Mwepu scored for Brighton, his first goal for the team. But it eventually went to penalties, in which Brighton lost. Some of the penalties were absolutely terrible, but Patson Daka and the McAllister penalty for Brighton in particular are ones you should definitely keep an eye on. Beyond there, we have Arsenal, of course.
They're on one. They are on one.
We beat Leeds 2-0, and Ben White, with a stomach bug, was like prime Beckenbauer, mate, taking the ball out of defence, running through midfield and passing it on to strikers. He was unbelievable. He had to come off because he didn't feel too well. But for the 60 minutes or so, I want to say that he was on, he was absolutely outstanding. Leeds obviously weren't taking it that seriously. They've got bigger fish to fry at the moment with very little form in the league. But for Arsenal, it's just a nice, efficient win. Callum Chambers came on, a centre-back, and within 23 seconds scored to open the scoring. And then Eddie Nketiah getting a beautiful little tap in to make it 2-0. Look, all these little wins just add to the momentum that Arsenal need at the moment. That takes them through to the next round. Elsewhere, Liverpool beat Preston 2-0 with a ridiculous... You know, we were talking about Divock Origi.
Yeah.
He doesn't score often, but when he does, it's like key goals or beautiful goals. You need to look up this back heel. It's the most awkward, uncoordinated thing I've ever seen, but it's a beautiful, beautiful goal. That was to make it 2-0. Minamino scored the first one. Someone else we've talked about who often gets on the score sheet. He loves a League Cup goal, a little outside of the foot flick to knock Preston out. Tottenham beat Burnley 1-0. Nobody cares. Chelsea beat Southampton 4-3 on penalties. And Brentford beat Stoke 2-1. So the teams left in the competition are Chelsea, Arsenal, Brentford, Leicester, West Ham, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Sunderland. So Sunderland definitely have their work cut out to get any further. But that's a pretty good lineup of teams, I think.
I do agree with you. And Roy, I just love how when things are going south for Arsenal, you will take 3 minutes to talk about them. When things are going well, you don't want to jinx it. And so you make it quick.
Yeah. I can't.
But I will do it for you. I will do it for you. In the last 8 games, no losses. So undefeated in 8, keeping as many as 5 clean sheets. I'm just going to leave it there. Were you aware,
there was
Rory?
a table I saw today about...
Oh, no.
There's a table I saw today about the best defenses in the league, and we've only conceded... We've got 10 clean sheets in a certain amount of games. I can't remember how it was. It was in like 20 games. In the last 20 games, Arsenal got 10 clean sheets. We've conceded 18, and Manchester United have 0 clean sheets. That's why I saw it on my Twitter, and I was like, oh shit, we're at the top of that table. We were ahead of Liverpool. I don't like, and that's all I'm saying. Our defense, that's all I'm saying.
But also this one, how many total losses across all competitions this season, Rory?
3?
3 total losses, yeah. To Brentford, Chelsea,
the first
2
fucking
games.
3 games of the season.
Yeah, you got 3 losses out of the first 3 games of the season. They were all else, and then after that, something is turning around.
There's a very clear moment. Where we don't have our first 11. Then we have our first 11. And that's the moment. Honestly, you can see it. But
will the Halloween-themed game this weekend make the Foxes turn into sort of werewolf and haunt Arsenal dreams? We've got Leicester against Arsenal on Saturday. How are you feeling about this one?
Not too worried. Famous last words. Kamal, friend of the show,
after 8 consecutive positive results.
Kamal, friend of the show, has been messaging me going, mate, I'm worried. And I'm like, we beat them 3-1 away last year. Don't worry. We were shite last year. We're all right now. We can do them. That means we'll definitely lose, but that should be an interesting game. Leicester do have to play Thursday, whereas we don't, so that might help. That kicks off the weekend on Saturday at 1:30, so I can get my disappointment out of the way nice and early. Then the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday, we have Watford after that cracking 5-goal win at Goodison Park. They take on Southampton, who are starting to find a bit of form. A player for them, Tommy, you need to keep your eye on. Unfortunately, he has announced for England, Tina Livramento. their wing back, they bought him from Chelsea, and he has been absolutely exceptional since he's come into Southampton. So he's a player that you definitely need to keep an eye on. He scored last weekend, I believe. He is a great player. Hopefully he'll be part of England's future, because he did make the right decision and picked England over Italy. So good work, Tino. Then we have also at 3:00, Liverpool versus Brighton. Brighton are not in good form, man. They're not in good form. And
No,
Liverpool are in very good form.
I know they've drawn 4 of the last 5. They lost 4-1 against the City. I guess the good news is that they managed to score 2 goals against the Leicester in the League Cup, which is something that didn't happen since September the 22nd against the Swansea, also in the League Cup. So good to get the goals again.
That's also a rough run of fixtures for Brighton. City, then Liverpool in the Premier League. It is a rough run. So you can't blame them for maybe not coming out with many points. The other 3:00 kickoffs, we have Chelsea or Newcastle versus Chelsea. Again, the kind of 3 title chasing teams have got games you would definitely expect them to win this season, this weekend even. Newcastle really are absolutely all over the place, and I think this takeover could be too late for them. I think we've said it before, I think they could be relegated before they even get the chance to buy a player. So that's on Saturday at 3:00. Alongside Man City versus Crystal Palace. Now, Palace, we know, have been really unlucky with conceding late goals. They've got draws where they should get wins. I think this one, if they get a draw, they will be very, very happy with that. City away. The feeling I get is that they tend to get battered by City at the Etihad. It tends to be 4 or 5. There was a game a few years ago where Townsend won it for them, but I feel like this tends to be quite a heavy hitter game. So fingers crossed for you, Eagles, but I'm not holding my breath. We then have Burnley versus Brentford. That is also at 3:00. And the late kickoff on Saturday, 6:30. The chance for Ollie to save his job is Tottenham versus Manchester United. And this is a big one.
Can we talk about it real quick? Do you think Ollie is going to stay until the end of the season?
Yes.
No matter what?
I think I read somewhere they have to pay $7.5 million to sack him, apparently. So I think they believe in the project, in inverted quotes. And I think they've invested quite a bit into him. So I think they're going to give him a bit more time. I hope they do, at least until after the Arsenal game. Please let him be in charge when we play him. Please let him be in charge.
So you can finally get your win against the
Man United. Whoa, finally. They've not scored against us in bloody 3 years. Finally get our win.
Sorry, you're right. I don't know. I threw it out there, and I was like, if I'm right, Rory will say something. If I'm wrong, he will be very loud.
Either way, I'm going to be loud.
But yeah, I know you don't like to talk about your arch enemies, but what about Tottenham? What's on the line for them in this game against Man United? Could this be seen as a chance to turn their form around, even considering how bad Man United have been?
I think undoubtedly. I think Tottenham are going to be looking at this going, look, can we capitalize on the bin fire that is going on at Old Trafford at the moment? It's a weird one because Tottenham beat them 6-1 at Old Trafford last season, then lost 3-1 at home. So you really don't know which way it's going to go. For Tottenham, I still don't know what they're trying to be. I don't know what team they're trying to be. Nuno at Wolves, you knew what the team was. You knew what they were trying to do. They're very much a counter-attacking team. Like, keep it tight, nick a goal. With Tottenham, I don't know. He's kind of like caught between two stools. I don't know what's going on. He's not really seeming to be able to get a tune out of what is a fairly promising front line with like Moura, Son, Kane. Like, they really should be getting more goals. So I think I'm just confused by Nuno's Tottenham at the moment.
I was looking at the standings in the Premier League, and the point difference between Tottenham and the table leaders Chelsea is 7 points. Exactly the difference, the deficit that Inter Milan have from the table leaders. But while I'm hopeful for Inter because I think they can make it, I don't think these teams even have a chance because the Premier League is so fucking competitive. And as my friend Fabio brilliantly puts it, he says, imagine being a Premier League fan. At the beginning of the season, you might as well be a title contender or the first team to get relegated. And it's true. Like, there is so much fucking competition. If then you add even the little team that is going to get the unexpected win, it's fucking hell on earth, man. I'm not jealous that to support a team that plays. I mean, I'm happy I support a team that plays in Serie A and not in the Premier League.
Oh, mate, honestly, just the dawning realization every so often that no matter how good Arsenal get, they'll never get as good as City is just so depressing. It's so depressing. And the competition is ridiculous. But for Tottenham, it's kind of been feast or famine for them. So they've won 5 and lost 4. There's no like happy middle ground. So maybe a bit of stability there would be helpful. But, you know, United are going to be looking to prove a point. I think it would be very Tottenham to lose to United after they've just been spanked at home. I feel like that would be very on brand for Tottenham.
We also have 2 games on Halloween as Norwich take on Leeds and Aston Villa take on West Ham. Anything to say about these 2 fixtures?
Leeds, this is your chance to turn your form around. This is your chance to get 3 points. If you don't beat Norwich, you are in trouble because Norwich are fucking terrible. Like, they're really, really bad. Like, I know we say this every year. We said it with Sheffield United last year, but I think Norwich could break the Derby record of the lowest points. Like, they are terrible. So hopefully Leeds can get 3 points here. They have to. Aston Villa versus West Ham. Aston Villa need to turn their season around. It's starting to look a bit gloomy. People are starting to talk about Dean Smith losing his job. They've lost their last 3 games. This has to be an improvement for them. Whereas for West Ham, fresh off beating Man City, they're definitely going to be feeling it. They're definitely going to be fancying 3 points. I think that's the most interesting game for Sunday, without a doubt. And then we finish the weekend on Monday night at 9 o'clock, Wolves versus Everton. Everton, just this purgatory team that nobody knows what's going on. And Wolves actually starting to turn things around. I think I talked about him maybe on the last episode, but Hwang for them, who they bought from RB Leipzig, has been incredible. They're unbeaten in 4, winning 3 of those. So I think Wolves could pile more misery on the Toffees at Molineux on Monday night. But that is us, I think, as my voice is definitely going. I'm sorry, guys.
Rory, I wanted to congratulate you because you said that you were sick. You were going to try to keep your energy up, but I think it went great. And we covered everything that we needed to cover. And now we're going to let Finn talk because we've got our weekly topic coming up, covering the life and deeds of a great English player. But before that, Rory, I just wanted to tell you a very funny story that happened yesterday in one of my classes. I've got this class, it's 5 teenagers. One of them is really into football. He was wearing an Inter training, what do you call it? The training
jacket?
The
training jackets? Yeah,
the training jacket. And the other people are not really interested in football, but this guy is a little shy. So at the beginning, when you do a bit of conversation, I tried to ask him, so what are your hopes for tonight's game against Empoli? And he said, no, I prefer not to speak. I don't want to jinx it.
Is he Mourinho? I prefer not to speak.
And I said, so clean sheet or not? And he goes, no, I don't think so. And another guy that is not very interested in football, didn't know the idiom. He goes, what is clean sheet? And they go, well, let's try to think about it. What is clean sheet in football? And they try to explain. And it's just like, okay, I get it, but why clean sheet? It doesn't make any sense. And I was like, no, because you're pronouncing it wrong. And he's like, yeah, but a shit is not clean. It's the opposite. And I'm just like, dude, clean sheet. And then we went back to sheet of paper.
There is a very unfunny old like song, which is
the
about
Italian man who went to Malta.
Yeah, where it's like, I want the fork on the table. Hey, get out of my hotel. Yeah. It's very, very xenophobic, I would say. Yeah.
Hey, I want to change my bed sheet. What are you talking about? I want to
the
change
shit
my
on the bed. Yeah,
this was very funny when he said, but a shit, and he was going with the classical Italian, like, what are you saying? He was like, but a shit is not clean. And I was like, come on, Eduardo, come on, try to think it's clean sheet. But guys, it's everything we needed to cover in the Euro review. Make sure you tune in to some of the games this weekend. And now it's time to jump to our weekly topic, Fit AFC Finners. We're going to cover the life and deeds of Jimmy Greaves. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time for our weekly topic. Last week, we were joined by Italian football expert Luca. This week around, we are joined by English football expert AFC Finners. How are you doing today, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks.
You don't sound too excited to be back on the Anglo-Italian pod.
So I'm not the best at showing emotions. I kind of have resting bitch face a lot of the time.
We can guarantee the listeners that he's smiling. Of course, Rory is here with us as well. And
All right.
today we are going to talk about maybe, at least that's what team I associate him with, maybe the most important name in Tottenham Hotspur history. Rory, is that right, more or less?
I think if someone said to you, name a player from Tottenham Hotspur, someone of my dad's age, this would be the first name that would come to mind, undoubtedly.
We are, of course, talking about Jimmy Greaves, the late Jimmy Greaves, who passed away this very year. We're going to go through his career that took him also to the very city of Milan, where he played for the Rossoneri. And then we're going to talk about his career in English football and his days after retiring. I'm very excited. Finn, why did you decide to do an episode about Jimmy Greaves, and why is he such an important name in English football?
So I released my video on him a few weeks before he actually passed away. But I thought it's weird. He's sort of a symbol of why something I felt sad about modern football. During the Euros, they showed a stats of England's all-time top scorers. I remember seeing it, and I turned to my friends, and I saw the name Jimmy Greaves there, and I said, it's sad because one day his name isn't going to be amongst that, and people might not speak about him as much. So I just felt it's how I feel with all the football history topics I do videos on, but I kind of especially felt with him, I want to just help immortalize him, and because more and more of those names will be lost the more top scorers there are. But hopefully, as long as people just know their stories and know about them, because his career is so fascinating. His goal scoring exploits, they're absolutely mad. They're up there with Messi and Ronaldo levels. The amount of goals he could score. But he has got a very bittersweet story. There's so many highs, but sad there's so many lows as well. But he's just such a fascinating character, and I just wanted people to appreciate his career, who he was as a man, and now that he's passed away, I hope that through just talk about, we can help him not be forgotten.
Jimmy, we're doing this for you so that your legacy will be remembered by all of the listeners of the Anglo-Italian pod. I'm very excited to hear more about him because besides his time at Tottenham, I don't know that much. I'm going to leave it to you guys, Rory and Finn, to discuss the late Jimmy Greaves.
Well, so basically his career started at Chelsea, and he was if you wanted to talk about who he was equivalent to, you'd probably say Erling Haaland. He's just this young striker who scored an insane amount of goals for his age. But he wasn't at a side that were necessarily winning league titles. Haaland's obviously won the Pokal, but in terms of Greaves, he was scoring ridiculous amount of goals for Chelsea, but they weren't winning anything. And he started to get a bit frustrated like that. So he went to AC Milan for a brief period, but then he wasn't very happy there. So he came back to England, joined Tottenham, where he truly made his name. Won a series of trophies there, as well as winning the World Cup with England. And it was throughout the 60s, he just could not be stopped. And that's how he really made his name. But he started off in the 1950s of Chelsea. But basically from the mid-50s to around the late 60s, he was virtually unstoppable.
Well, if you look at his goal scoring record for Chelsea, it is, so this is where you first the numbers jump out to you. So I'm going to go for it. 157 games, 124 goals. And as you did point out, this is when Chelsea were very much pre-Abramovich, when they were a club that didn't win much. But how much excitement was there around him at the time by Chelsea fans and by England fans in general? Was it, you compared him to Haaland, did he kind of burst onto the scene?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of excitement around him because he netted on his debut, and basically he was basically almost too good for them. So Chelsea's manager Ted Drake decided to rest him for 6 weeks just because he was only 17 at this point and he didn't want the fame getting to Greaves' head. But then he returned to the starting lineup and he scored 4 goals in his next game back. So it's definitely all this hype around him. He received his first international cap a couple of years later, and yeah, a lot of teams are being linked with him, and Chelsea needed the money, so he was certainly receiving all this hype, but it never really it didn't seem like all this hype got to him in the same way it would someone like, say, Neymar, when the game becomes secondary and it all becomes about the fame. Like, he was always someone who just seemed to love the game. It was only the end of his career where maybe the fame got the better of him, but in the prime, it was always like his form never really faltered.
Well, it's funny hearing that, because now you get players like Pedri who are like 17 and they run into the ground by the time they're 19. So it's interesting to see, maybe it wasn't for the right reasons, but his manager did kind of try to save his legs a little bit. But as you said, he got his fame at Chelsea, and then this move to AC Milan appears. Now, this spell in Italy, it didn't last very long. It was only around 6 months. And I've got some quotes from him from before he moved to Italy. And he played a friendly with England against Italy, and I believe it was in Rome. And he said, now the game was a friendly, but in name only, really. So just after I was transferred from Chelsea to Milan, we had to play a friendly in Rome. We won, and they decided to take us on a lap of honour. Not a sensible policy, given the locals had just started lighting bonfires on the terraces and were busily ripping out seats to hurl at us. I suddenly thought, what the hell have I done agreeing to play here? So before he even got to Milan, he tried to cancel the move, and things kind of went downhill from there while he was there. Despite still having a very impressive goal-scoring record of 9 goals in 14 games, including a goal against Inter Milan, Tommy. He scored in the Derby della Madonnina.
Oh, wow. In 10 games, and of course, he had to score against us. But what I think is interesting, I was kind of looking at AC Milan, where they were standing in 1961, and they had won only 7 league titles back then, no European Cups yet. So AC Milan were a bit like a Chelsea, maybe slightly better than a Chelsea, but definitely they were not the household name that they are right now. The big team in Milan back then was definitely Inter.
But the interesting thing as well, exactly, is that his first year there is when Nerio Rocco takes over. And him and Nerio Rocco apparently really did not get on, because Nerio Rocco was a very strict training regime and didn't give the players much freedom. Now, this would be a problem. It would probably be more of a problem for Jimmy Greaves, especially training, as his career would go on. But this is where him and Nerio Rocco kind of fell out a little bit. And unfortunately, after 6 months, he did return back to the UK, but he did say afterwards, I can particularly remember Omar Savori, an Argentinian-born striker who was a naturalized Italian and a big mate of John Charles. He had a party trick which consisted of sticking 2 fingers in your eyes to temporarily blind you. When I played for Milan, the dark arts were known by every defender. The kick on the ankles, the knee in the back, the over-the-top tackle. You never received the ball without first getting some physical contact from your marker. Even though I only played in Serie A for a few months, I always felt I went to Milan a boy and came back a man, thanks to all the physical treatment I withstood from their defenders. So despite it being a short time in Italy, I think it definitely benefited him a little bit.
That's what we've done with Rory ever since meeting him. We've beat him up so much that now we can finally say Rory got to Milan a boy, and he's going to live whenever he does. If he ever does, he's going to leave a man.
Am I finally a man? Is that what you're announcing on the pod, Tommy?
No, you've recently become a man. But Finn, I wanted to ask you, so he goes to AC Milan, then he comes back after 6 months, and he transfers to Tottenham. Now, was the rivalry between Chelsea and Tottenham already something back in the 60s, or was this a straightforward move?
I think there definitely always has been a rivalry, but I don't think it's the same as someone going from Arsenal to Tottenham or vice versa. But no, there's certainly a rivalry there, but I think they knew Greaves was a London boy. He'd been homesick for 6 months. He just wanted to be back in London, and Tottenham were, they just won a famous league and cup double, so they were probably they were the place to be under management of Bill Nicholson. But with the whole AC Milan thing, it just wasn't right for him, because AC Milan were on the verge of a lot of glory, because they obviously had the famous Nerio Rocco that we just mentioned, and within the next couple of years they had the likes of Cesare Maldini, Giovanni Trapattoni, and would win a series of European Cups. But with the whole, I think it was the whole, what you're saying about Nerio Rocco, his training methods are very similar to Helenio Herrera. They were just exhausting, and like he would often take players on like retreats as well, and like train there. And I think Jimmy Greaves did just suffer a lot with not being able to have a life outside football. But like towards the end of Greaves' career, he probably could have done with like not having a life outside of football. Like we'll come into that later. But no, with the like Tottenham had like, you know, like I said, were the place to be, and it was just the perfect move for Greaves. But like with what you were saying about how he was treated at AC Milan, it did toughen him up. He could have come back from that and just not been the same person, but it actually made him better. And for everything that's said about his time at AC Milan being bad, he still did actually do quite well. He only played 12 games, but he scored 9 goals. Like that's pretty good for like all he was given. So
It's,
Well, he
it's
definitely
not quite.
took his
It's
opportunities,
not
right?
quite as Haaland, but we back in the day. Come on, I think Haaland has no comparison really. His stats are out there, but I do like this comparison. So, what about his time at Tottenham? How did it start? Who was his first manager? How did he fit in this team that had just won the double?
Yeah, so the manager was the legendary Bill Nicholson, and basically, yeah, so they just won League and Cup double, and it sounds hilarious now, but Greaves went to Tottenham because he felt they were a club he could win trophies with. So sounds funny
I've
now.
definitely heard that before somewhere.
But yeah, he just exploded into form. Like he scored a bicycle kick on his debut against Blackpool and also got a hat trick in that game. But he basically he took them to an FA Cup final and they retained it. He scored in only the 3rd minute to give Tottenham the lead, and that was the first winners' medal of his career. So within the first season, he'd already justified his move there, and he'd finally got a trophy to show for all of his goals.
It's a dream start back at your club, right? What I liked about the move from Milan to Tottenham as well is that it was £9,999, so that there wouldn't be the pressure on him to be the first ever £10,000 signing, which I think obviously now sounds so quaint and like old fashioned. But I really like that you could see that maybe they knew how much things like that could get to him, or how kind of volatile person he might be. So to do something tiny like that to take a bit of pressure off, I think really kind of it tells a lot. But yeah, so he has a great start to his Tottenham career, and then he kind of continues in the same vein, right? He just league top scorer ad infinitum, right?
Yeah, definitely. He keeps winning trophies. He was part of the Tottenham side that won the Cup Winners' Cup, and that was the first English side to win a European trophy. And then he went and won the FA Cup again in 1967. And he's obviously famously part of the England side at the 1966 World Cup, which I think is, like, for all the wrong reasons, a lot of people refer to as a defining part of his career. But I think a lot of people allude to that for a lot of the wrong reasons, because it's like there's so much he achieved in his career, and obviously he did win the World Cup, but so many people refer to him as not playing in the final, and that's how they remember his career. And it's like, well, look at all the things he did. Why are you remembering him for not playing in a World Cup final?
Yeah, it's kind of cruel how these moments kind of define careers. But if we're going to talk about what he did do, you're right. They did win the Cup Winners' Cup. He scored in the final, but he was sent off. He got his first and only red card in the semi-final for trying to punch a player who spat in his face, I think. But he did score in the final as they won that. And when the second time they won the FA Cup, he was the top scorer in the competition that year. So you're right. He should be remembered for these things more than falling out with Alf Ramsey, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because he was just very unfortunate at the World Cup. Because I think if he'd started the final, it could well have been him that had a hat trick, or England could have won 3-1, 2-0, a comfortable scoreline. But he sort of he basically admitted with his whole World Cup thing, it was just that he was really happy and sad at the same time. It was I was happy. He essentially said, I was delighted we won, but deep down there was this sadness that I wasn't on the pitch.
So what was the problem between him and that? What were the circumstances that led to him not playing in that final? We're going to have to focus on it. I'm sorry, sorry, Jimmy, but we're going to have to talk about it.
So in a nutshell, he played in all 3 of the group games. And then in the final match against France, he was on the receiving end of a nasty tackle, which required 14 stitches. So he was out for the quarter-final against Argentina and the semi-final against Portugal. But he was fit for the final, but Alf Ramsey didn't want to change a winning team because like Jeff Hurst had scored the winner against Argentina. So like Alf Ramsey made the bold decision, and in all fairness, it was the right decision because Jeff Hurst scored a hat-trick.
Yeah, you can't really blame him now, right? Yeah. You're like, okay, fair play.
But but the thing is, it is a story that has a happy ending because, like, at the time, it was only players who were on the pitch in the game who could get a winner's medal, and they obviously weren't substitutes at the time. But about 40 odd years later, every single member of the England squad that was still alive that didn't play in the game received the winners' medals. It was like in a ceremony at I think 10 Downing Street. So Jimmy Greaves did get that World Cup winners' medal at long last. So for all the sadness amongst that, it does have a happy ending. And again, it doesn't define his career that he didn't play in the World Cup final.
No, well, exactly. In his career for England, it was like incredibly impressive. 57 games, 44 goals. As you said, World Cup winner. He scored several hat-tricks, scored 4 against Norway, scored a hat-trick against Scotland in the home championships in a 9-3 win. So I think throughout his England career, and I was looking through the games, and it was like a really just consistent goal scoring. So there was a run of 4 games where he scored 8 goals in about 1962, I think, 1961. So it's just, his goal scoring record just stands out, like the consistency, and it's always 1-2, 3-1, 2-1, 3. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that was the thing about him. Just no matter what, he would just always score goals. Like, it just sounds so simple, but nobody else was scoring goals like him, and it's just there's just some players who just can naturally do that, like no matter what. Like, and we just go through all the seasons and you just look at the amount he scores and it's just insanity. And that's what I was saying at the start. He is like Ronaldo and Messi levels. Like, how on earth do you score that many? It's just madness. But like, but he did, like, as a result of that, did briefly become England's top scorer. But I think even in his final campaign for his final full campaign for Spurs, it was like, he still got 36 goals, and like, you know, he's still their all-time top scorer like today. And whether that'll be beaten is unlikely. We'll see if Harry Kane can.
It's not looking like it will at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really not. It's looking safe for now, I'll be honest.
Yeah, but that's what I mean with like how, like, I think that's the key thing to like immortalize his legacy. Just, you know, how long that record has last, and how if Harry Kane can't beat it, who can?
Yeah. So if we talk about what type of player he was, because obviously you said he kind of burst onto the scene like Haaland, but watching him play, what struck me was a lot of his goals look quite modern. Like, they're goals that you would see in the modern game. They're not, you know, sometimes you watch like goals in black and white and it's just like kick and rush and it's just a wild shot. Like, some of what stood out to me was his dribbling, his ability to like chip a ball or slip the ball under the keeper. Like, is there any player like modern day that you think is kind of similar to him, or he's similar to?
So I never expected to compare him this much, but I do think, like, in terms of style of play, he is very similar to Haaland as well. There's just that technical ability that, like, because a lot of like forwards you sort of see as sort of inside forwards, but he was like definitively central, but he could also like drop back and get the ball and bring it forward. Like, I think his most famous goal, I can't remember who it was against, but it was everywhere when he passed away, where he does just get the ball like from about 40 yards and then just runs in a straight line, like to the edge of the box, and then just calmly places it around the keeper. Like, that was the kind of player he was. He could just like, he just had, it's cliche, but he did just have the eye for goal. He could just create goals out of any situation. And And I think any chance that was given to him, he could take. Because there's a lot of players like someone like say Ruud van Nistelrooy, like you would know would score most of his goals on the edge of a 6-yard box.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like Ibrahimovic tends to get on the end of crosses. But Jimmy Greaves could do all of those different types. Like he could come deep to get the ball, he could wait in the middle for a cross, and it is essentially the way of being the complete striker. I suppose he's very similar to like Gerd Muller in that respect as well.
Mm-hmm.
He could just, no matter what, he'll find a way to score. It's not you need to like base the game around him. Just if you just play, he will get in those positions.
Yeah. And now we obviously can't talk about Greavesy without talking about the kind of off the field stuff as well, right? So this is a player that I've read stories that often before games he would go to the chippy, like eat fish and chips, have a pint, and then go down to White Hart Lane to play the game and score a hat trick. Like there are plenty of stories about him off the pitch. Now some of these are like there were lows in his life, but what was he like? Why is he such a sweetheart in like the English like mentality? Because people really do like him, not just as a player but as a person.
I think it's just because he's quite relatable. Because people like at the top, like Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, they have this kind of godlike aura to them. But with Jimmy Greaves, he was just he's just this like sort of London bloke. Like he didn't like. He wasn't into all these like fancy suits and things like that. He likes, just British things like pints and chips, and he just also loved football. So I think he was very down to earth, spoke his mind, wasn't like false or anything. Like he was very honest. What you saw was what you got, and I think because of that, people just related to him a lot, and that's why he was so popular when he was on the telly with Saints and Greavesy, because he wasn't someone who was just like plastic or told the viewers what they wanted to hear. He just spoke his mind, and everyone all got that. He just said what everyone was thinking. But with the whole off-field issues, it was like it did like get the better of him, certainly, because like we hear about like people like George Best and it was pretty much just as bad for Greaves. It's just he managed to come out the other side of it, because he basically he ended his career with Tottenham because he lost his spot in the team and decided to move to West Ham. And apparently, a lot of time after training, he would go to a pub in Romford, and he would like drink 20 pints and then have a bottle of vodka before he went to bed.
My God!
It's madness. And he basically said that he spent the whole of the 70s drunk. But I think that like a significant factor was the fact he did lose a child to cot death, and like that happens, and naturally that's going to really affect anyone. And I think he found solace in the bottle with that, and it did lead to him temporarily splitting from his partner. But there is such a common trait of footballers ending up alcoholics, and he's no exception to that. But he it did just get to him, and he basically said he essentially spent the 70s drunk, and as a result, after he left West Ham, he was out of football for 2 years, and he ended up playing for a few non-league sides before he retired. But you do wonder if he'd been able to stay away from the bottle, would he have been able to make a comeback at the top?
Yeah, I feel like obviously that's awful, but I feel like that period for footballers, it was like a really weird time, because with George Best and the likes, it's like the first time footballers became rock stars, right? Or the first time footballers became like celebrities, and the first time they started to earn relatively a bit of money, right? So I feel like, and obviously at that point, no one's gone before them, so there's no one to tell them how to deal with this fame, how to deal with this, and it just seems like there was a few, because you got there's a lot of players in the 70s, like Robin Friday is the other kind of famous one around that time, right? Where these players just didn't really know how to deal with it. And a few of them fell into that trap, unfortunately.
And if I can make a little joke about it, I was wondering why there was such a physical change between the Jimmy Greaves footballer and the post-football Jimmy Greaves. Let's say, though, that the bottle did a lot of bad things to him, but at least it contributed to creating that iconic face and the smile that he had after he retired from football. Because he really looks like two different people. And I remember recently when I saw a picture of him, I was like, I wonder what he looked like when he was young. And then I looked up the picture and I was like, I know this guy. I would have never said that they were the same person. They really don't look alike.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's really weird. It's like as soon as he grew the moustache, he became a completely different person. It's just, but
like a type of walrus kind of thing. I don't know. He just looks such a friendly bloke. I don't know. I want to get a pint with him.
Well, that's the thing. It's like his life is all split in three. There's that first stage of his career, then there's the low point, where like the end of his playing career around this time of alcoholism. But then there's afterwards as well, where he became like the face on the telly. But it's just. But the thing is, he did get out the other side, the whole alcohol thing. But the thing is, it's like it does happen to so many footballers, and like Brian Clough alludes to it in his autobiography, where he basically says like it's just hard to avoid this when you're in football because it's just everywhere. Like you win a game, people give you champagne to celebrate. You lose a game, you have a pint to drown your sorrows. It's just everywhere, and it's just unavoidable for footballers. And bear in mind all these companies that sponsor football as well. You just can't avoid it. And I think with a lot of footballers, like there isn't much for them to do after training. So that's why he just like spent a lot of his free time just drinking because there wasn't much else for him to do. But he'd been hospitalized for his alcoholism, and eventually he came out sober, and he basically didn't have a drink since, except for an article I read like it was like last year there was some event he was part of, and to celebrate he had like a small sip of wine, and that was like the only drink he'd had since. So like to stay sober from the late 70s until the end of his life, that's a fantastic achievement. Like I'm currently doing a month sober and it's driving me mad. So
I can imagine. The funny thing is, me and the girlfriend said we're going to do sober October, and we lasted about 10 days, and we were like, oh, sod it, I need a bit. Like, it's difficult. It's difficult.
Only a couple more days.
Sober October? That just sounds so wrong. It's the beginning of the darkness outside. It's just like, it's the season that maybe motivates me the most.
There's always an excuse, Tommy, because then it's like, August? No, that's the end of summer. Like, January? That's after Christmas. Like, there's always an excuse, right? But I think we should finish on Jimmy Greaves' TV career, right? Because this is obviously for people, I'm going to throw you in the same age bracket as us, Finners, but for people our age, I think we only really remember Jimmy Greaves from TV. Now, I'm even a bit too young for St. Greavesy, but I have seen some of the clips. What I love about St. Greavesy is the humor now is a humor you wouldn't get anymore. So there's two jokes that kind of stuck out to me. One was they're commentating on a Saudi Arabia game, and he describes one of the goal scorers as Salman Ian Rushdie, which I did really enjoy, and saying that he was going to call his friend, who's a Michael Jackson lookalike, Frank Bruno, which I also enjoyed. But the humor, obviously, you can't get away with anymore. But why do you think that show meant so much to so many people?
I think again because Jimmy Greaves and Ian St. John just represented just everyone, because they were just two run-of-the-mill blokes who liked football. Like they were just very down to earth, and they weren't all like glamorous or fake or anything, like I was saying earlier. And I think people just related a lot with them because the way they spoke about football, like you see a lot of their conversations, and you can tell they're just chatting about it. It's not scripted. Like when you watch Match of the Day or something, you can tell sometimes maybe the producers have said, "Oh, can you say this?" But with them, it was just you just felt like the clips I've seen. It just feels like you're down the pub with your mates, and you're just like having a pint, discussing the weekend's happenings and all that. And I think because it was just so easily down to earth and very real, people liked that. Something I would recommend people looking up on YouTube is a combination you wouldn't expect, but he had an encounter with Donald Trump on Saints and Greavesy. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Yeah, and basically, no, it's funny because basically they're in America and they go into Trump Tower and they get Trump to assist them with the draw for the Rumbelows Cup.
Rumbelows Cup. It sounds so Mickey Mouse as well.
But basically, one of the draws, like one of them picks out Man United, and then I think Donald Trump picks out Leeds, and Jimmy Greaves just goes, "You don't know what you've done, Donald," and it kind of says, like, I think Donald Trump drawing leads against Man United kind of is one of the better things he's done.
My favourite moment from that clip as well is Jimmy Greaves makes a joke about, I've not been in a room this night since I was in Doug Ellis's boardroom or something. Like he expects Donald Trump to know who Doug Ellis is, and Donald Trump just laughs anyway. He's like, yeah, good one.
I know Doug Ellis. He's a great man, the best man.
Yeah, but
he's a great man, Jimmy Greaves. Yeah. I kind of miss Donald Trump sometimes. Like I just,
Tommy, we're not getting into that anyway.
No, there is so much silence around. But you see, you bring up Donald Trump meeting Jimmy Greaves. It sounds like a match made. I don't know. It's a ridiculous match. I'm gonna look this interview up because I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's very funny because it's just such a bizarre combination. But like, it's the thing. Like he kind of. But I think that sums up quite well because there's also a famous clip of him. I think he's meeting Mike Tyson, but like he's meeting people like Mike Tyson and Donald Trump, and they both just are very relaxed and like kind of warm to him. And it's like, let's not kid ourselves. Those two people are complete bastards. Jimmy Greaves is able to get through to them, and they enjoyed his company. And I think a lot of people really wouldn't be able to do that. Like if someone like like just some of the modern people you see on TV, I think would really struggle to like get through to people like that. It would just end in a awkward argument. But Jimmy Greaves just is able to just be able to speak to these people. And I think because he is just, I know I keep saying it, but because he was just down to earth and able to what you saw was what you got. I think people respected that.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. I think we can end it there. I think that's it. Yeah, I think there's what we can see from the interviews is just how nice a bloke he was, and definitely search out the Donald Trump one. Also, for regular listeners, we did a feature on Phoenix from the Flames a long time ago, and Jimmy Greaves' Phoenix from the Flames is fantastic, where he does make jokes about him liking a drink with Frank Skinner, who also likes a drink. So I would definitely recommend that clip as well. But thank you for coming on, Finners.
That's all right. Pleasure to talk about a legend. I just hope if anyone's listening doesn't know much about him, please read up on him, because I think it's very important that legends like this are remembered. And with his recent passing, it was great to see all these people tell their stories about him. And I just think, just make sure people like these don't get lost in time. He was a legend and should always be remembered.
Thank you so much, Finners. Definitely going to read up more on Jimmy Greaves and on his legacy, both for Tottenham and for English football more broadly. We'll be thinking, guys, about the next topic to discuss with our friend Finners. If you've got any tips for us, if you've got anything that you would like us to cover concerning English history, please reach out to us or reach out to Finn. Finn, how can our listeners find you before we let you go?
Okay, so my YouTube channel is AFC Finners. You can find on there. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram under the same title. If you want to speak to me about football history or ground hopping, as I do, please just follow me, drop me a direct message. I'll be more than happy to discuss it with you.
Thank you so much once again. And now it's time to wrap it up and to jump to the 1 minute to kick off quiz. Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching to 20 points, but not quite. Welcome to the 1 minute to kick off quiz. Rory Criscuolo, after doing pretty well with the championship quiz, is currently leading 16-10. This time around, it's my turn to sit in the hot chair, and Rory is going to quiz me on
the Champions League, not the European Cup.
So here we are, and I'm ready to go, Rory. How was your research? Did you come up with difficult questions so that I cannot get 6 points to come on even points with you?
I hope they're difficult, and I hope Transfermarkt has correct statistics this time. They shafted me with the Buffon shirt, and I don't forget. So I am hoping that this time they are right. I have tried to double and triple check. So hopefully there will be no mistakes, or the only mistakes will be from Tommy and not from me. So Tommy, are you ready?
I'm not ready. As you know, listeners, we do not prepare for this quiz. I was really tempted to look up a few stats, but I'm a man of my word, and I didn't. I'm ready. Commence the countdown.
In 3, 2, 1. Which team has made the biggest comeback in UCL history, and by how many goals was it?
I don't know. Next.
There are 2 players who have scored 5 goals in the UCL. Can you name any of them?
Lionel Messi.
Good. There are 2 managers who have won 3 UCL titles. Name them.
Ancelotti.
Yep.
And Arrigo Sacchi.
No. How many finals have been settled by penalties?
0. 1.
No. How many UCL titles does
stupid.
Italy have?
5.
Good. How many UCL titles does England have?
6.
Good. And who is the oldest goal scorer in Champions League history?
It was pretty recent, I feel like. I'm going to say Modric, but it's wrong.
No. Tommy, we are out of time. So let's go through the answers, Tommy. So the first question was, which team has made the biggest comeback in Champions League history, and by how many goals was it? It was, of course, Barcelona versus PSG by 4 goals in the remontada.
In the big fixada, I like to call it, right?
No, it wasn't fixed. Do you think that was fixed?
Yeah, 12 minutes of extra time. It was like 6 minutes and then it became 8. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like if one day there was an investigation about that game, I would not be surprised. But let's keep going.
Okay, well, we've talked about it before, how Italians love conspiracy theories. But here we go. The second question was, there are 2 players who have scored 5 goals in a game in the Champions League. Can you name any of them?
I said Lionel Messi.
Of course, you said Lionel Messi. The other one was Luis Adriano for Shakhtar in a 7-0 win against Bate Borisov. So I would have been surprised if you got that one, but good work for getting Messi. Question number 3. There are 2 managers who have won 3 Champions League titles. Name them. Tommy, you are going to kick yourself for this one. You said Ancelotti.
Yeah.
The other one is?
I cannot think. It doesn't come to my mind.
French bald man?
French bold man? Zinedine Zidane. Because I don't think of him as a manager, of course. But yeah, the Real Madrid Hall, of course.
Exactly. So it's Ancelotti and Zidane. Okay, how many Champions League finals have been settled by penalties? Now, I triple counted this because I thought this number was crazy high.
Off the top of my head, I remember AC Milan Juventus in the early 2000s that was settled after a super boring game in Manchester. I think they were playing.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the one between Chelsea and Bayern Munich. And then off the top of my head, I cannot think of any other, really.
So we have, in total, 7.
What?
So, Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid in the 15-16 final.
Mm-hmm.
The 11-12 final, Bayern Munich versus Chelsea.
Okay.
Then we have the 07-08 final, Manchester United-Chelsea.
Oh, true, man. Moscow, of course, the John Terry slip. How did I
Exactly. The 04-05 final, Milan versus Liverpool.
All right. Yes, of course it ended in penalties. I'm so stupid. Yeah. Wait.
The 02-03 final, Juventus versus Milan, which you mentioned.
Okay.
The 2000-2001 final between Bayern and Valencia, which ended 5-4.
I do not recall this one.
And then the 95-96 final, which was Juventus versus Ajax.
Wow. All right. I was way off on this one. I remember
7 finals on penalties. That's crazy, right? When you think of that compared to the World Cup or something, it's insane.
Yeah, it is. It is. Keep going. I'm curious.
Beautiful. Number 5. How many Champions League titles does Italy have? Now you got both of these, right? Italy have 5. And the next question was, how many does England have? England have 6. So good work, Tommy. That was really good, quick maths.
Yeah, I was just like assembling with Italy. I was pretty sure 3 for AC Milan, 1 for Inter, and 1 for Juventus. And England, I kind of winged it.
Yeah, it would be a few for United, 2 for United, 2 for Chelsea.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
2 for Liverpool, 1 for United, 1 for 2 for Chelsea.
1 for Arsenal, 2 for Tottenham. No, wait, I'm way off.
Moving on. And then the final question was, who is the oldest goal scorer in Champions League history? Tommy, he's a favourite of the show. He's from the same country as yourself.
It's a recent one, right?
It is. It was scored in 2014 against CSK Moscow.
I do not know. Tell me.
It is Francesco Totti, 38 years old, 1 month and 29 days.
Oh, Pupone. Sorry, I did not remember that one. But this leaves it as 16-13. And Rory, we said the first one who gets to 20 is going to be the winner. But I think that to make it even, you're going to get a go. And if you get to 20, then I also get a go next week because you're always the first one, right?
Okay, right. So you need to have even games. That makes sense.
We need to have even games, and you needed to pick your topic for next week right now.
AS Roma.
Oh, all right. I like it. I'm going to write it down. AS Roma, their history. Very good. I like it.
Oh, Christ. Right. Yes, good.
Rory, anything to tell our listeners before I send them off with our customary quote?
Have a good weekend, guys, and enjoy the quote.
Enjoy the quote. Well, first of all, remember to follow us on Twitter at Italian Anglopod, on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod, and also to follow our sponsor at Sports Club Maps, both on Twitter and on Instagram. And guys, if you haven't yet, this might be the right time to tell a friend about our podcast. Our numbers are sick, as always, but, you could always help out. Guys, it's time for our end of the episode quote and celebrating finally the sacking of Ronald Koeman from Barcelona. We went back to February and we found this great quote. Honestly, at this time, I don't see many teams better than Barcelona. Nice one, Ronald. We'll talk to you guys on Monday night for our customary Euro review show live on Twitch and on YouTube. Have a good weekend.